There we go.
There we go. There we
be
go.
all
We're all
good.
set.
All
Okay,
right,
thank you.
wanted to reload.
Okay, good evening, everyone. It is 7:05. I would like to call to order the Land Use and Building Management Committee meeting of Wednesday, September 6, 2023. Roll call tonight. We have with us Councilmember Greg Burnett, Councilmember Brian Meek, and Councilmember Jim Frayer, as well as myself, Barbara Smith. First item on the agenda is public participation. Is there anyone who is in attendance who would like to speak?
There is not.
Okay, seeing as such, I will close public participation and move on to the minutes of previous meetings. We have two minutes to approve, so I'm going to move those separately or ask for a motion to move them, approving the minutes of August 2nd, 2023. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Okay, Mr. Burnett, I'll give that one to Mr. Burnett, and you can take the next one, Jim. Are there any changes, deletions? Okay, all right, seeing none, all in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, opposed, abstentions? I know Mr. Meek needs to abstain. Mr. Meek, can you just give me a sign? Thank you. Okay, and so the minutes pass with 3 in favor and 1 abstention. And then moving on to the special meeting of August 23rd, 2023, to approve those minutes. Do I have a motion? Okay, Mr. Frayer moves those. Are there any changes, additions, or deletions? Okay, seeing none, please signify if you are in favor, please signify by raising your hand. Okay, that is 3. Opposed, abstentions, and Mr. Meek abstains. Okay, so the minutes pass, minutes of the 23rd pass. 3 in favor and 1 abstention. Okay, so now we are moving on to a public hearing, which is the proposed disposition of city surplus property, District 6, Block 28C, Lot 7, approximately 0.23 acres, consists of mostly wetland, located on Sheffield Road to adjacent property owner at 8 Sheffield Road. Is there anyone in attendance who would like to speak as a part of the public hearing? Okay, doesn't look like we have anyone. And considering we started a bit late due to some technical difficulties, I will go ahead and close the public hearing and then move on to old business. A, review proposed disposition of city surplus property, District 6, Block 28C, Lot 7, approximately 0.23 acres, consist of mostly wetland, located on Sheffield Road to adjacent property owner at 8 Sheffield Road, and referring the following actions. 1, refer to the Planning and Zoning Commission for Section 8-24 review, the disposition of city surplus property, District 6, Block 28C, Lot 7, approximately 0.23 acres, consists of mostly wetland, located on Sheffield Road to adjacent property owner at 8 Sheffield Road. 2, refer to the Common Council for final approval, the disposition of city surplus property, District 6, Block 28C, Lot 7, approximately 0.23 acres, consists of mostly wetland, located on Sheffield Road to adjacent property owner at 8 Sheffield Road, Mr. and Mrs. Edelman, in the amount of $1,000. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Okay, Mr. Frayer makes the motion. This is an item that has been up for numerous discussions in this committee. Mr. and Mrs. Edelman have, expressed their interest in acquiring this property for very good purposes. I don't think that we need to go into a great discussion since we have discussed it so much, but we have gone through a very extensive process of doing our best to evaluate the value of the property, and we have come to this agreement. So does anyone have any comments or questions or anything they'd like to share before we call for a vote? Okay, seeing none, I will go ahead and call for a vote. All in favor, please signify by raising your hand. Okay, that passes unanimously. So congratulations to the Edelmans. Thank you very much for all of your perseverance. And, we trust that this property will be, well taken care of in your hands. There's still some, procedures to go through, planning and zoning, which of course you'll have to go to that and talk to them. But congratulations.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. We appreciate all of your perseverance and the opportunity to do this. So thank you.
Thank you for being good stewards of the wetlands.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, moving on to new business. Item A, review request from property owner at 25 Pogany Street for
I'm
land.
sorry, Barbara, I'm sorry. On the last two items, are there specific dates? Because we're saying refer to the Planning and Zoning Commission. And then it says refer to the Common Council. What are the dates that referral is going to take place?
Well, the planning and zoning will be their next meeting, which is October 4th. And then can't come to the Common Council until it moves through planning and zoning. So that would be our next meeting in October.
Okay, I just
Okay.
want to be clear on the dates. Thank you.
Sure. Okay, so item A, I'll start that again under new business. Review request for property owner at 25 Pogany Street for land swap for a portion of Fodor Farm and subject to support of the committee thereafter scheduled for a public hearing. So can someone make a motion to move that item, please, so we can talk about it? Mr. Freyer moves it. So we have Doug Peoples here with us tonight. I think I'd like to just turn it over to Joanne to introduce the item. Mr. Peoples is looking to swap a portion of land on Fodor Farm, which I'm actually, Joanne, although I have an understanding of it, I'm going to let you explain it. Okay. And then we can give Mr. Peoples the opportunity to speak.
Okay, there in your minutes too, there is a diagram actually, to notice, that there are 3 lots and, Mr. Peoples he has the property in the middle and, as well as to the right, but he's looking to swap the, property on the left with the property on the right. So according to our minutes here, we want to review this at 25 Pogany Street for this land swap portion of Fodor Farm and subject to support of the committee thereafter scheduled for the public hearing. So today he is here to explain the situation and talk to the council about it.
Let me just interject a little bit more history that it is in the backup that this property was originally, sorry, I gotta switch that, set aside, this is on the Fodor Farm property. It was originally set aside for school. There was going to be a new Brookside school a number of years ago. And it was determined after a period of time that that a Brookside school new school would not be built and they would renovate that school. And then, as you know, Fodor Farm turned into, a parks property and a community garden. And Mr. Peoples has one of the 3 original homes on the property. On one side of his property, which is a part of Fodor Farm, is all trees. And on the other side of his property is just more, it's more open space, although it's not technically open space. And what he's proposing is to swap those sides. So I would like to turn it over to you now, Mr. Peoples, to talk about, why you're asking for this swap.
Well, the property that I own is adjacent to the part that I'm speaking about swapping, is adjacent to the tree farm that you guys have gotten back there. So to keep the continuity of Fodor Farm, I would want to not disturb those trees because it is a good buffer between the Fodor Farm and the road down with the two lots that are there. just coming up to end of Pogany Street. Now, in 2009, I bought this property, and when I started maintaining the property, which is the city property that I all this time thought was mine, but it wasn't. The other side was. So now I've been maintaining this property, keeping it fit and doing everything, mowing it and doing everything that is needed. So it's all cleared out. So rather than staying as is, I would just want to flip the same amount of property to the other side, which I'm already taking care of as it is my property. And I found out about this because I had a survey done on my property.
I see. Okay, that really helps fill in a couple of blanks that I had. I would just like to state that Alan Lowe is on vacation right now, and so he's not able to be here. But I did meet with him last week, and I know that he supports this, has no concerns about it. Joanne, do you have anything that you would like to add from the department?
No, you covered it, and having him explain it to all of us is helpful as well.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions? Mr. Burnett?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. The only question I have is, is there any financial costs that the city is incurring in this swap, or is it cost neutral, or what is the assessment from that standpoint?
My understanding from Alan is that it is cost neutral.
I would have to get the surveyor out here to resurvey the property and draw the lines from the new property that would be swapped out. And then just make sure it's equal from where we swapped it out to where we're going to.
So that hasn't been done yet.
No, I wouldn't put the cost up there, and I already got the survey done on my half, so I know what portion is mine now, and it's marked out. So basically, we would just flip-flop to the other side with the same amount of land.
Should be the
So
exact.
if I can ask one more question and continuing that, has the city then done a survey on the city piece of land to ensure that it is an equal swap?
Not to my knowledge, no. So that is something that the city is going to have to do.
And I have no objection to the city doing their survey, because my sticks and stuff are still visible to where there would be an easy sight line for them to see.
Mr. Peoples, I understand that there's no rush here.
No,
Okay. I mean,
it's just something
Mhm.
I just figured that I'm mowing the lawn, I'm cutting down the trees, I'm doing everything. I might as well do it on my property than your guys.
Understood. And I think, given there's no, you're not under any kind of time crunch.
No.
Maybe what we could do is table this until we get some information about, the survey on the city side, because we still have to go to public hearing with this.
Okay.
Okay. Mr. Meek has a question. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. And Barbara, I think you brought it up, right? Without Alan here, this doesn't have to get done tonight. My concern, and no disrespect, that Mr. Peoples' reputation precedes himself. He's a very valuable member of our community. My concern is, does this open the door to everybody across the city? Hey, I like that inch of land you have, and I'll give you this inch. We have a lot of private property abutting public property. Is there a process for this? How does this get to committee level? Do other people have avenues to propose similar? And And how does that work? I'm clueless.
The way I understand it is this is a unique situation because of, you know, and there's some information in the backup about it regarding the three, you know, when the city took the property, and, you know, turned it into Fodor Farm as we know it today, there were 3 abandoned houses, Mr. Peoples being one of them. And there were agreements made at the time to, you know, keep the historical architecture features. Two of those apparently are, you know, you have to enter the property to access those homes, and there are agreements with those homeowners. So I think that, you know, it kind of falls under there was an agreement apparently all those years ago that the home that Mr. Peoples now owns, you know, was a part of that property. So, you know, the stipulation was the preservation of the houses while keeping the original farmhouse for the city. So, yeah, I think, you know, maybe we table this and you come back next month, you know, and Alan can give us some more information about, you know, whether a survey is needed or not. And, you know, we'll keep the conversation going.
And to address his concern is this property abuts Fodor Farm. I don't think that you'll find any other property in town that has that unique dynamic to it, so that my goal is to keep the flow of Fodor Farm going with that particular tree line that is back there now.
I mean, one of the things I really appreciate, Mr. Peoples, is that, you know, you haven't cut any of those trees down, and that, you know, by doing the land swap, we protect those trees. So for the, you know, for the future. So, Mr. Freer, did you have a question?
Yeah, I think that I agree with that. Putting this off for another month might not be a bad idea. I would just like to know whether there is any precedence for this type of transaction happening in the past. And it also seems a little murky as to, you know, which property, you know, what right of ways there are on different properties to get across to Mr. Peoples' property. So, you know, I'd like to get that all cleared up. I mean, this is one of those things that everybody, it takes it for granted. It's a wonderful thing. It's a great thing. But then 20 years down the road, we find that we've got major league problems. And I also, I'm a little concerned that, you know, if I live next to a school property that was, maybe they were not using that land and it was all wooded, you know, would I have the same opportunity to flip my property, which maybe is on a busy street? Now I want the privacy. So I think it opens up kind of a can of worms in some cases. That we ought to just be on solid ground when we do this.
I think maybe, you know, next month we might ask Corporation Counsel to weigh in as well. So yeah.
It shouldn't be a difficult process to do a title search on it and find out who owns all those properties.
I was understanding that the city owns all those properties.
Yeah.
That's true. We're all under that understanding.
Okay.
It's always good to double check, you know, especially, you know, like has been mentioned, this is, you know, what is the precedent around
not a
it?
problem.
You know, we want to make sure we don't make any mistakes here.
I always like to be the first of everything.
We appreciate
Okay.
that. Okay, so then I'm going to go ahead and move to table this item to the October meeting for further discussion. So if you are in favor of tabling the item to next month, please raise your hand. Okay, that is unanimous. And thank you, Mr. Peoples, and please
Okay.
hold on, let me just double check the date for you. Please put October 4th on your calendar. And we'll see
Okay.
you then. Okay,
Appreciate the time, guys. Thank you.
thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Okay, let's move on to item B. review proposal for the purchase and installation of 2 new boilers at Ben Franklin Center and refer the following to the Common Council for action. 1A, authorize the purchasing agent to issue a purchase order to GA Fleet Associates, Inc. for the purchase of 2 new condensing boilers for Ben Franklin Center for a total not to exceed $77,630. Funds are available from account number noted. 1B, authorize the Office of Building Management to issue increases to the purchase order for a total not to exceed $3,800, account number noted. 2A, authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute an agreement with Universal Building Services LLC to provide labor to install 2 boilers at the Ben Franklin Center for a total not to exceed $58,643, account number noted. And 2B, authorize the Office of Building Management to issue change orders on contract for a total not to exceed $5,564, account number noted. Will someone move that item, please? Mr. Burnett? Okay, so I know that we approved a boiler about a year or so ago for Ben Franklin.
Right, we did one last fall, and
Mhm.
we're looking to do the two remaining ones.
Okay, so you want to tell us a little bit, Neil, about the particular type of boiler? It's a condensing boiler.
Yeah, so we're going back in with the same type, same manufacturer. A lot has been learned with condensing boilers over the last 17 years. The efficiency of the boilers are a lot different, a lot better. The way they're made today is a lot better, and the way they're designed, systems are designed are different today. So we're making some tweaks in the design with the installation and putting these higher efficiency boilers in. The current boilers over there are approximately 17 years old. We believe we'll probably get at least 25, if not more, with the new design and the new boilers.
Okay. Questions? Mr. Fryer?
Yeah, could you speak a little bit about the fuel, is it fuel efficiency that we're gonna recognize, or is it just?
Yeah, they're natural gas boilers.
Okay,
Yeah.
and I mean, will we get, what are we replacing? Are they fuel oil burners?
No, they're first generation condensing boilers. When they came out, they were new to market. And as you know, anytime you buy anything new to market, it's not always the best time to purchase. We did get some pretty good life out of them. A lot of lessons have been learned over the years. Efficiency wise, not only are we upgrading the boilers themselves, but the control schematic around it. The pumps will now be variable speed, so we won't be going full speed with pumps. They'll operate at a reduced speed. And one of the boilers we're looking in is a lower capacity boiler that'll be used during the shoulder seasons. So, late fall, early spring.
Which
So
is
we
a different configuration than what we have now?
Similar configuration, but we're able to throttle down on the energy with variable frequency drives. So whatever the demand of the boiler is, we'll match that with the demand of the pumping capacity.
So how much are we going to save with these new boilers?
I don't know the exact saving. It won't be significant, but there will be a savings. They're at end of life, so we've been replacing the heat exchangers on the boilers. Because of the original design, the pumps don't ramp up and slow, either ramp up or slow down according to capacity. So you overheat the heat exchangers, which tends to make them crack over a period of time, right? You're kind of superheating this aluminum vessel and then cooling it down rather fast. That would not be the case today with the new. When a boiler is offline today, it will be physically with automation. The boiler will be physically taken offline with valving. So you won't be you won't be sending hot water through a vessel that's not actually operating.
So do we know that it's not going to be more expensive? I mean, is it going to be, I assume it's going to be a lot more fuel efficient, but we don't know how much it is.
It's definitely going to be savings. Right at this very moment, I don't know the exact savings, but there will be a savings.
No idea whether it be 10% saving. 15?
Off the top of my head, we don't, because we're changing up the way it actually operates today. Meaning that we're hoping to stay on the smaller boiler most of the time, especially during an extra 2-3 months out of the year versus bringing up one of the larger vessels. So I don't know what that's going to equate to. We're changing the valving arrangement on it, which we don't have in place today. Right now, we have no real automation going out there. So on top of what we're doing, we're also changing, making them automated.
So does that automation add to the cost of these when we replaced them 17 years ago? Now, granted that 17 years ago, they were probably a lot cheaper, but are these more expensive because they're more sophisticated? They might have more technology on there, more bells and whistles?
They're actually pretty the boilers themselves are pretty reasonable. I don't know what the original cost, because it's been some time ago.
Are there any other vendors out there that have new similar type? I know this went to the purchasing.
There's like two main vendors out there. We're trying to suit it up with the existing vendor and the existing arrangement, so we don't have to change the piping sizes, the arrangement, how it comes into the vessels. So if you go with the different manufacturers, your inlets and your outlets come into different locations, so we'd have to maybe do significant changes in piping. So we're trying to stay with the same vendor, who's a reputable, one of the top vendors out there for making condensing boilers.
You're talking about Fleet.
GA Fleet.
Yeah. So I guess, have you looked at other vendors out there that may be competitors of Fleet? I'm just curious on that.
Of course we have. So pricing similar. The unknowns and some of the knowns again is where we have to then go into piping arrangement changes, pump changes, valving arrangement changes. So we're trying to reduce that as much by staying with the same vendor. We know that we got this much of a life out of them, and we know with the way we're going to operate, it's going to at least, I would say, give you another 20%, 30% to its lifetime. So we're probably looking, I would say, in the 25-year range.
You're personally guaranteeing that, right?
Oh, personally, yeah.
Because
Here's
it only
my
says
stamp.
it only says 15. So I was wondering where you got that 25 from.
Well, look, yeah. No, I was just gonna say, based on my own experience in the business, condensing boilers have come a long way from 17 years ago. It would be like the electric car, 20 years from now. It's not going to be the same, right? I mean, so technology changes. Electronically, they change, right? In the early days, you didn't have the electronic packages. You didn't have the monitoring packages. We can pull data from the boilers today to give you an up-to-date savings and energy on what we're actually doing on a day-to-day basis that we can't do with the right off the existing boilers.
Okay.
Any other questions? So Universal installed the one last year, and I see that you've chosen Universal lowest bidder. That's quite a big difference between the Southport contracting.
It is. But we find we bid out quite a few mechanical jobs over the years, and for whatever reason that's been the case. They've been very, very competitive. They don't have a lot of overhead. They're a very small shop of probably 6 to 8 people versus the larger mechanical contractors can go 20, 30, multiple vehicles, offices and stuff like that. So there's not a lot of overhead there, and they do quality work for us.
Okay. Mr. Burnett, you have a question?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Quick question. Does installation of these boilers require taking the Ben Franklin Center like offline?
No,
or
no.
they can still utilize the building and function?
Yeah, so there is some, even with the smaller boiler that we're going in with, no, there is redundancy there, of course. We don't want to have it where we lose a boiler at any time, that we would have to shut down the center. So there is redundancy for the center.
Great, thank you.
You're quite welcome.
Anything else? All right, let's go ahead and vote. All in favor, please raise your hand. Opposed? Okay, Mr. Meek is opposed, and so the item passes 3-1. All right, moving on to item C. Review bids for the renovation of the showers at the Norwalk Police Headquarters and refer the following to the Common Council for action. 1, authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute an agreement with HV Contractor Corp. For the police headquarters men's shower room renovation project for a total not to exceed $152,400, account number noted. And 2, authorize the Office of Building Management to issue change orders on contract for a total not to exceed $15,240, account number noted. Will someone move that item, please? Mr. Burnett, thank you very much. So I understand there's some very significant leaking in the men's shower, and so this work is very much needed. I also understand that the women's shower room is, coming up as well. They're not going to leave the women's without. So do we have any questions, or is Neil, are you here to speak about that?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I can speak about this. So there's a couple issues out there. So the men's facility gets a lot heavier use than the women's facility. That's why we're heading there first. So we're refreshing the counters, the mirrors, the wash areas. The showers are very small. They're a fiberglass, pre-made shower assembly that goes in. One of the downsides to the original design is the shower head points outwards. So when you go to open up the shower and turn the shower on, the water shoots out, towards you or out towards the floor. And they're very small. They're hard to get into and get out of. We're looking to increase the size of the showers and make them more accessible for the people that are using them. And we are getting leaks because of the way it was designed.
Sounds like there's some water being lost as well.
It's
conserving water.
It probably costs a little less to do it originally, but there wasn't a lot of thought put into it. Again, they are small. They do get a high demand. Probably when it was designed originally, they weren't expecting the amount of demand that they have there today, but they do. And we're looking to stay ahead of it, get them repaired so we don't have any other damage, any more decline of the facility, and to keep it going forward.
Okay. Questions, Mr. Freyer?
Is this the first time we've had to renovate these since the building went up?
Yes.
Okay, so how many years is that now?
I don't think it's as many, typically, look, we just did the city hall, which I think had 20 some odd years on it for like the first floor bathrooms. They get a lot of wear and tear too. Here's a smaller facility. I think they have like maybe three showers, 4 showers for the men's room. So they do get a lot of use. They have a few sinks. The countertops are all warped, right? We're going to go with a solid surface, sinks underneath, more molded, so everything rolls into the sinks and doesn't pond on top of the sinks. Same thing with the showers. They would be side mounted showers, so you're not opening up a door or curtain and being doused with water. They're not shooting outwards onto the floor. So we're hoping with all those things, we won't need to put that attention in repairs that we do to keep it going.
So this is a complete gut of this shower, and this is, how many square feet is this? Because I expected, when you said there's only 3 showers there, I expected that this was going to be
I think currently we're at 4, maybe 4 showers. One will be a larger shower for handicap use. And then the other ones will be for able body use. We're not hitting the locker room area. The locker room area at some point will have to be addressed, which is the larger part of the facility, right? I mean, the lockers, they probably have, I'll say maybe 100 lockers in there. And that's starting to get antiquated. Again, there's a huge amount of use. It's something that needs to be addressed. So we're hoping at least starting with the shower facility. Most of the work's happening in the shower facility. And there will be a refresh in the sink areas, new mirrors. The mirrors are starting to come off the wall. You'll get some blackening behind the mirrors from where the mastic meets the walls. So it's for the shorter period of time, they're very aged, but they've been well used.
It's a good way of putting it.
All set, Jim?
Thank you.
Mr. Meek?
Thank you. I'm sorry, I'm gonna be a no vote. This is outrageous. This building's less than 2 decades old. We're dumping, a full renovation less than 20 years later. We're either getting shoddy construction or people aren't taking care of it. And really what it foreshadows later in this meeting, some of you are going to authorize spending north of $200 million. And I'm wondering if we're going to be back here in 10 or 15 years talking about what needs to be replaced again. And I know no one here was involved with building the police station, but we need to do a serious gut check here on what we're going to spend on buildings and make sure these things last. Thanks.
Any other questions or comments before we vote?
Yeah, I just want to look up because Mr. Meek brings up a good point. So how long are these going to last? I mean, Neil, as you just started to explain that the design is going to be a little bit different. There's going to be basins that will drain into the sinks. What other things are going to be going to help us to get through more than 15 or 20 years in the future?
Look, it's unfortunate or fortunate, however you want to look at it. It gets a lot of heavy use, right? It's not like going to the gym, right? And you have somebody going in for 5 minutes, jumping in, jumping out. It's not. It's constantly used. It's 24 hours a day. So when we equate it to a building that's City Hall, for instance, we're online for maybe 12 hours a day. Here we're 7 days a week, 365 days a year of men and women who work hard every day, right? And that's a main place for them to shower, either on their way in or on their way out. So it gets heavy use. I wish it could be less, right? But it is a 24/7 building, and it does get a lot of wear and tear.
And I'm sure there aren't too many people going to the City Hall to take a shower.
No, but like for instance, we just did the first floor men's and ladies room, right? So that got some we got some time out of that, but it's also half the amount of time it's being used, right? And it's really someone. If you think about it, in some cases, it's like someone's home. I mean, that's the kind of use that it's getting. It's not just the one-offs. It's not 12 hours a day or 8 hours a day. It is heavy, and the same thing on the air conditioning side. The mechanical systems, as you know, we've done rooftop air conditioning. Typically, we normally would get maybe another 5-8 years out of some of this equipment, but it is running 24/7, and we do our very best to keep everything maintained, repaired as much as we can. But it gets to a point that's end of life, and it's not worth putting any more money into the product.
Okay, good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, anything else? All right, all in favor, please raise your hand. Opposed? Okay, Mr. Meek is a no. The item passes 3-2-1.
Thank you.
Thanks, Neil.
Thank you.
Have a great evening.
You too.
Bye now.
Okay, moving on to item D, review request from Recreation and Parks Department to execute a utility easement with Eversource for the park garage at 10 Tito Court and refer the following to the council for action. Authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute any and all documents necessary with Eversource Energy for a utility easement in order to provide gas service to the park's garage in South Norwalk at 10 Tito Court. Do I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Okay, Mr. Freyer moves it. We have Ken Hughes from the Parks Department here to give us the information on this easement. Go ahead, Ken.
Hi, good evening.
Yeah.
So as most of you are aware, the city Parks Department took over the building over at 10 Tito Court. For the last 6 or 7 months, we've slowly been renovating, cleaning up the site, taking abandoned cars off the property. So it's come a long way in that short period of time. Prior to us taking over the building, there was probably 4 or 5 different tenants in the space. And each of those tenants had their own propane tank attached to their own propane heater. So we're lucky enough to have a staff plumber. We removed all the unsafe plumbing and tanks, and we looked into having a gas main run off of Lexington down to 10 Tito. So I had Eversource on site. They did a survey for us. The city had their own survey done, and Eversource let us know what they needed for an easement in order to get a gas main from Lexington to 10 Tito. So that's what you have before you now. Would give us the ability to run natural gas from Lexington Avenue to 10 Tito Court.
Okay, and so what we're approving here is the easement and not.
Correct.
Okay, okay. Do you have any questions, comments, concerns? Mr. Meek?
Yeah, this is even more outrageous than the police station. I mean, this was supposed to be temporary, right? This was supposed to be a school before, like Fodor Farm was supposed to be a school before. You see how we keep moving the goalposts here? And a permanent gas line with easements across property does not sound temporary. How long, Ken, how long are you gonna park stuff over there? Are you you're just waiting for the library parking lot to open up to put your stuff there when that falls through?
I wasn't aware of this.
Common themes here and bad land use decisions.
Yeah, I wasn't aware this was a temporary use.
Yeah, you're moving in there permanently then, huh? Don't take that the wrong way. I know you need space for your stuff and we're not providing it elsewhere, so you're just taking what we have, but. Right, who does this gas main serve if and after you leave?
The gas is going to serve 10 Tito Court.
Okay. Thanks. I didn't mean to put you on the spot. I'm a no vote for these reasons. It just seems like we're making up our mind as we go along.
Mr. Burnett?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. The question I had is that, assuming we get the easement approved, is there any cost, Ken, to run the necessary connections to 10 Tito Court?
So the gas company, they'll do the main to our site, and then our plumber would take over from the meter into the building. So there is no cost from Eversource. The cost would be the parts on our side for our plumber to do the interior install.
And we're assuming that will be a minimal cost to.
We have most of the equipment already and the piping that he needs to do his part of the work. So if we never were able to get an easement, then we'd have to stick with propane.
Okay, thank you.
Which does not sound very safe. Mr. Freyer?
So by going to the natural gas pipe, we're going to save money because propane is more expensive than natural gas anyway, right?
Sure, that and the
So
hassle.
this is more of a cost saving, or it could be looked at as a cost saving approach. It is a cost saving approach.
And a convenience too, yes.
Yeah, so it saves money and it's easier. It's less work for you guys. Sounds like a win to me.
Okay,
Thanks,
anything
Ken.
else? Okay, anything else? Okay, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, please raise your hand. Opposed? Mr. Meek? Thank you. Okay, the item passes 3-1.
Thank you.
Moving on to E, review request for design services contingency for Gallagher Mansion and refer the following to the Common Council for action. Approve design services contingency for Peter Gisolfi Associates Architectural Design Services contract for the Cranberry Park Gallagher Mansion Improvement Project for a total not to exceed $45,000. Funds are available from the state DECD grant city account number, and I'm going to read the account number and make an amendment because there's a typo there. So the correct account number is 0923-6030-4120C0831. So the one was left off. So we just need to fix that typo. Do I have a motion, please? Mr. Freyer moves the item. Okay, so this is the mansion improvement. We have a $5 million grant from the Department of Economic and Community Development from the state. And so this is for the design portion of it. Who's going to speak to that? Joanne?
Yeah, I can speak to this. This actually was already approved through the Parks and Rec Department way back when. It's been a couple years, but it didn't have this feature to give us the ability to hire all of the other groups. So environmental, and we also hired surveyors, and we didn't put that in the original motion. So this is just designating a certain portion of the grant monies to that.
Understood.
And
Okay.
Ken, you might, if you wanted to add anything, Ken, he has a lot of the background too.
No, you did a pretty good job covering it. When we first approved this project, we had a budget number from the state of Connecticut. So what had happened was the contract number was lower than that budget number. And as Joanne stated, a lot of those incidentals weren't included. So we had up to X amount of dollars to spend, but the committee never approved up to X amount of dollars. They just approved the straight contract amount. So this is kind of a cleanup of the language.
Okay. Any questions? I mean, I just like to, this is so long overdue. That mansion is a real gem. And you know, I know the bathrooms haven't worked. There's all kinds of plumbing problems. So I'm really happy to see that, you know, we have this funding from the state and we're able to move this project forward.
Great, thank you.
Very good for the city. Good for Cranberry Park.
Great.
Okay. All right, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, that passes unanimously. All right. Moving on to school construction. Let's go.
Thank
So-
you,
Hi, Dan.
Joanne. Hi, Joanne.
Yes, Bill?
Oh,
Can
it's
you,
Bill.
if it's okay, can I read these items?
Sure.
Okay, thank you. And thank you, Madam Chair. So we had a very busy summer, but I guess the spotlight of the entire summer and the past year has been item number one, which is Cranberry School. Yes, it has condensing boilers. It's up and running. There's a big wow factor as soon as you walk into the lobby. That gives you the big wow factor, and you know what you're walking into from there. So just before it opened, I walked in, there were a bunch of teachers in the lobby crying, and I was told that's happy tears. That's just to goes to show you how happy they were in taking the invite of a brand new school. And it's been nothing but a positive experience for these couple of weeks that has been open. We had great teams doing it, pretty much the same teams that delivered Jefferson just a year ago. Antonazzi Associates was the architect. Construction Services Group was the program manager, and Newfield Construction was the general contractor. And that team also will be pretty much, minus a different architect, Tectum will be doing South Norwalk School. So Cranberry School speaks for itself, and it's been a very rewarding experience so far, just like we received last year, this time at Jefferson. The next
It's
item that
beautiful. It's beautiful.
it is. And while we know that the existing school and that area is still under demolition, the school is down and we're currently pulling out all of the components and debris that's been left. Once that opens up, you're going to see the real effect of the whole campus, and the parking will improve and the ball fields will be recreated, and it'll be back to a very nice functioning school. The next item we want to talk about is the Nathan Hale and West Rocks bathroom improvement project. So about 2 years ago, we started on this project at 3 of the middle schools. That is Nathan Hale, West Rocks, and Rowton. That was phase 1. This was the final phase, of which included Nathan Hale and West Rocks. Some of the complements were new epoxy flooring over the existing ceramic flooring, all new partitions. The fixtures themselves remained unless they were totally damaged and we needed to replace them. And the entire bathrooms received new lighting in addition to a new paint job. So that's been well received so far. And we're just beginning the school semester. So both Nathan Hale and West Rocks are night and day when you use the bathrooms, both the single use and the multi-use. The next project, which really
Oh,
kept
I'm
us
sorry.
busy-
Sorry, Bill. Greg has a question. Go ahead, Mr.
Oh,
Burnett.
I'm sorry.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Bill, as you go through these items, could you just give a timeline for any work that might be outstanding? For example, going back to Cranberry, you indicated that there's the demolition of the old school and the new field and the parking. What's the timeline on that?
So the entire existing building is down and they're currently falling it out. The first part will build, they'll increase the parking, so we get additional parking. That will be taking place late October, while the fence moves closer to the recreation of the new ball fields. They will be delivered next spring. So the parking will increasing firsthand, and then the ball fields will be available by next spring. And then the project is complete.
So is that the beginning of the spring, end of the spring, end of the school year? When is the project considered completed? At the end of the school year?
I would have to say end of school year, yes.
Okay. And again, if you can give time, so Nathan Hale and West Rocks is all completed?
It
They are
is
all completed. Yes.
Sorry. Sorry, Bill. There's just a couple punch list items that I'm waiting to complete, but we're just waiting for a part or two. But other than that, everything is complete.
Okay, thank you.
So the next project I want to speak of is the Silver Mine School Parking Lot Improvements Project. I know this is a much talked about project for a couple of years. It's delivered, it's finished. If there's any items that are left, we're waiting for the grass to grow so we can cut it, and the trees. This project was well taken in by a very qualified contractor who delivered the project 2 weeks ahead of time. So when you come into the premises now, you'll see a separate bus loop, which they never had before. So the buses make a immediate left, whereas the vehicles, the parents and whatnot, make a right, go all the way down to the parking lot and make their way up to the drop-off area. The drop-off area did not consist before in its completion, that being it was mixed in with a lot of the buses. And in the interest of safety, that's how this whole project came about. buses in a separate bus loop, parent drop-off in a separate area, parking down below. Very similar to a couple of years ago when we did Roten Middle School. That too now has a separate bus drop-off. Also, the city bus drops off there as well. And that has been working fine for a couple of years. Here at Silvermine, while it's new to everybody, yes, there's still some learning experience that I've seen personally, but I've been checking it just about every other day, and it certainly has improved. Again, this is in the interest of safety. So when you park down below, you're not crossing traffic. We built walking paths around the perimeter of the parking lot. So now you're not walking through traffic, you're walking right onto the pavement up into the front of the school. Or the kids come off the bus and they get right on the front of the school and into the school. The bus drop off, again, now they walk onto a pavement directly into the school. So we're very proud of this project and we're getting a lot of compliments. And the neighbors, while it was under construction, were coming by. Lighting is improved. All around, a very good project. There's nothing left to do, as I said, other than watch the grass grow.
It was a long time coming. I'm really glad that, you know, it's finally done. And you're hearing positive feedback. What are the parents saying?
They're very happy about the enlarged drop-off and the pickup area. Now, originally it was only 2 lanes. We actually made it 3 lanes. So we widened it and built a retaining wall where we excavated all of that area, which was kind of a wasted area. We certainly improved on it, and we also got additional parking spaces. So the parents are happy.
Great, great, good news. Thanks, Bill.
Any other questions on Silvermine? I'd like to talk about Nathan Hale Air Conditioning Project. A couple of years ago, about 2018, we started outfitting the schools that needed air conditioning on a temporary basis, that being window-style units and split systems to the areas that are in the core of the building that do not have windows. Nathan Hale was the latest project. We just barely made it, in that being we maximized all of the available electric in that building to complete this project. A lot of talk has been, why can't you just air condition a building? A lot of problems are power. Here we just made it, and we were able to get all of the learning spaces done. We did not do the gym. We did not do the auditorium. There's simply no additional power available for that. This week, as we know, is the heat wave. For the first time ever, Nathan Hale has had air conditioning in all their learning spaces. So while you may have heard through the news that we've closed some of the schools early, that is the additional schools that do not have air conditioning in their learning spaces. Our neighbor down the road, Stanford, they closed the whole district, air conditioning or not. Norwalk only closes the schools that do not have air conditioning. So since we started this in 2018, this is about the 5th school that we included air conditioning, and there are a handful more. What we are doing is trying to make use of the school the HVAC indirect quality grant, and we plan to submit an application to include the schools like Merrimack, to include Rowayton, and improvements to existing air conditioning in other schools. So here we are completing a middle school, and students and the teachers certainly seeing the benefits this week.
Bill, thank you for that. You know, I remember before 2018 when we did close the whole district or had early dismissals for the whole district. So, you know, this program that began in 2018 is certainly improving the situation. And, you know, I've talked about this in this committee before. You know, I taught in building without air conditioning. It's pretty brutal. And so So you have 5 schools. How long, I mean, I know you have the HVAC grant that you're waiting to hear about, and that's probably going to take us a long way, but realistically, how long do you think it's going to take to finish up these 5 schools?
Well, I'd like to say 1 a year, but probably not. That would be 5 years,
Yeah,
maybe
you're doing
7
1
years,
year.
maybe 8.
Mhm,
Yes.
Okay. I think it might be a good idea, you know, to send some messaging out from the district about the progress that you've made with the air conditioning. I think a lot of the new parents might not be aware of this ongoing project, so it might not be a bad idea to get that message out there. Mr. Burnett.
Yes, thank you. So, Bill, you mentioned Nathan Hale air conditioning project is closed. However, you said the gym and the auditorium have not been air conditioned. So is there no plans in place to do those spaces?
The focus was on learning spaces, and when we looked at the available power in the building, there was no possible way we could have included those spaces without increasing the power feed from the street through Eversource and adding to or replacing the actual switchgear. So that would have tripled the amount of money needed for this project. So therefore, those large areas were not included.
Any
Okay,
other
thank you.
comments? Okay, all right, go ahead, Bill.
So the next project I want to talk about is the Rhoton Middle School abatement project. Now, what I mean by abatement is floor tiles. Asbestos floor tiles are in many of the schools, a lot fewer now since we started the program, and they've been coming loose, especially at Rhoton. Not long ago, Silvermine, that was done. Rhoton was a larger project, so it took us 2 summers to do this, last summer and this summer. We are now complete, so all of the flooring at Rhoton is now VCT as opposed to VAT, vinyl asbestos tile. And we just reinvented each classroom, moved all the furniture out, placed all of the, conducted the abatement and placed all of the new tile down wherever it was needed. So the areas such as the main office, they received what we call luxury vinyl tile. And all the classrooms received 12-inch by 12-inch VC. And look at the whole school is so much nicer now. So we want to continue our flooring abatement program within the district. And I know that the Wolf Pit is another one that while the tile is all over the place, it's not necessarily cracking like it did at Silvermine and Rhoton, but it's old and aged, and it should be replaced as part of the asbestos management plan mandated by the state. Any questions on the Rhoton abatement? The next project I want to talk about is the Brookside Montessori classroom. Back in 2018, Brookside took part in the Montessori model, and we created 2 classrooms. Those students are moving up in age, therefore the higher grades. So 2 years later, we built another classroom. I should say we converted another classroom. This past summer, we converted our 4th classroom. So now Brookside, which has about a total of 21 classrooms, 4 of them now are specific to the Montessori program. What is the Montessori program? It's based out of Montessori, Italy, and it teaches basic skills. And you might see Montessori schools all around the world. I know there are a lot here in Connecticut and all over the United States. So in the classroom, we have sinks, refrigerators, dishwashers, stoves, washer, dryer, and all these grade age kids learn this skill set as they advance in their grade. This program is by lottery, and over the next couple of years, we're going to be converting more classrooms to outfit them for the Montessori program at Brookside. So this job was completed. There are no items to complete, and it's already been in use.
Okay, thanks. Any questions about Brookside? Okay, thanks very much, Bill.
Thank you.
Let's move on to item 2A, which is a project presentation and update on the Norwalk High School.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Scott Manjali. I'm a project manager for Castle Booz Associates. Gonna go ahead and show you the Norwalk High School campus design as we're moving forward to the state submission in the next few weeks. Go ahead and share. Is that okay?
Yep, we can see it.
Hey, just I know it's getting late, so I'll go through this very quickly for you. In terms of the schedule, we've been designing for the last half year in terms of finishing up our construction documents, the last phase, and we're heading into in the state, like I mentioned. The construction manager is intending to bid the project over the next 3 months in terms of October to the end of the year. The beginning of construction for the school portion is going to be starting in 2024 and generally getting into 2027, where they will then be able to move the entire population of the students into the school and go ahead and abate and demolish the existing building. And then they'll be able to start the field construction sort of concurrent with the demolition of the existing building and the moving in of the students and going ahead and finishing out into the later quarters in 2028, basically the summer of 2028. Just overview of the site very quickly. The existing building is on the north side of the site. The football complex and fields are on the south part of the site. There is a softball field on the north side, bounded by Strawberry Hill Avenue and County Street, and on the bottom south portion by King Street. And Merrimack School is on the west-hand side. What the project had contemplated, I know we had gone through this before, but basically just flopping, needing some room to build the existing facility, which is generally equal in size to what's existing now. So it's upwards of 340,000 square feet. But flipping the football complex and the new building, we're able to provide space in order to adequately build a new building. It is fairly tight, as you can see. It's a bit snug in terms of the closeness to the property line. But in order to fit all the programming and the footprint in, it's portions are 4 stories and portions are 3 stories. How you get into the site is a little bit different. It's the same access roads from County and Strawberry, but they're utilized a bit more equally now. Talking with the bus personnel at the city, they've decided that there's going to be a bus loop that's going to be to accommodate all of the buses so they can stack without ever going on to County or Strawberry. And we have a bus drop off on the west hand of the site. The parent drop off is intended to be in front of the building within the main parking area. So generally the parents will be able to loop and get out, or if they wanted to get out into County or Strawberry, they're able to do so. But the buses will have priority. Undoubtedly, most of them will sort of swing around into Strawberry. And there has been some traffic improvements anticipated within the project, working with the city and our traffic consultant. The fields consist of the football athletic complex, so the football field and the track, and the synthetic softball field with a practice soccer field and new tennis courts. 2 ancillary buildings are the concession stands and the field house off to the west and the east respectively. The grade change, as you may be aware of, is slightly around 40 feet. So we're able to utilize the stepping of the site in order to get the home grandstands in there. And you also have a smaller section of the visitors grandstands. The concession stands, because of, as you can imagine, getting down to the 40 feet, it's kind of about 4 to 6 feet above the fields, providing sort of another area for seating and to be able to view the games from that vantage point. but everything is accessible in terms of a slope going down and then a bit of a ramping going down and then into the stands and onto the field. The just a little bit note about parking. Most of the parking is going to be on the north side of the facility, the building facility, and there's going to generally be some teacher staff parking on the southern portion and the western portion of the site. The Merrimack fields are going to be slightly altered because of how the new softball field is a bit pushing into what there was the existing right field fence. So we reestablished the orientation in order to provide them a larger field. Just
So
getting into.
Before you move on, can I just ask a question
Please.
about the traffic?
Mhm.
And I imagine you've spent some time with the traffic consultant and our TMP staff.
Correct.
With this new, all the new roads and entrances and using that Strawberry Hill site, do you think that there will be a reduction in the insanity of, the people who are doing those U-turns on Strawberry Hill during drop off and pickup time?
The understanding is that by bringing the buses all internally, you won't
Mm-hmm.
have the issue with the buses. We have provided provisions for parent drop off on the internal circulation of the site also. People being people, they will do what they need to do, but the traffic consultant did not anticipated a little bit of relief. What you certainly currently see now, having been out there during bus dismissal, parent pickup, yes, it is quite a orchestrated mess, if you will.
Very dangerous.
But they don't anticipate,
Yeah.
they imagine all the internal circulation would certainly clean that up.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. The building, as I mentioned, is generally a 4-story structure. It's split down the middle as a spine of the building. So you have P-TECH Norwalk on the west side and Norwalk High School on the east side. The Norwalk, due to its population, is 4 stories. P-TECH is 3 stories. And what we have up front here is just the administration. Everything sort of funnels into a commons area with a learning stair. That commons area is a multi-story space. It's 2 stories open, fully open, and then it's open to the 3rd floor with some vision glass into the visual arts, as we'll see momentarily, and then some clerestory to get some interior light within the space without having too much sun glare within that space. And on the southern portion of the facility, you have the kitchen, the servery, loading dock area in the gray here, and then you have the larger spaces of the gymnasium with supporting lockers, the pool and its lockers, and then you have the performing arts spaces, band, choral, and the auditorium. Just getting up to the 2nd floor, essentially all the floors are the same in terms of the general arrangement. You do have support space spine down the middle of each wing. They would generally consist of teacher work areas, small group rooms, toilet facilities, in some cases a little bit of programming space. We do have career centers up here, to sort of all tie in to the commons area with the large group instructions and the media center. So those all tie into, possibly having career vendors come in and being able to do sort of career day. But the adjacency was important as we were going through the programming. And then the southern half, there's really not much in terms of, they have junior ROTC over here adjacent to an auxiliary gymnasium because of the use of the space and the space needs that they have. And then you just have the upper auditorium. So none of the rest of the southern portions are just upper stories. Getting into the 3rd floor, again, it's pretty much identical. You do have these larger project rooms because we three stories here. We have 1 for P-TECH and we have 2 for Norwalk High School. And as I mentioned, from the commons, you have a clerestory space that's open to the commons below, and where we have this sort of ring of purple for the visual arts program, a bit tying together the P-TECH Norwalk and the Norwalk High School. And we just have the upper portion of the media center. We'll see that in some internal views. And on the 4th floor, as I mentioned, you just have the the Norwalk High School. And as you can see, I just have the upper portion of the stage. So these are the tallest portions of the facility. As I had gone over through the site, it's just mentioned the concession stands and the field house. The field house is simply just the locker rooms for the home team and visitors team and associated toilets. And then you had some athletic storage and mechanical rooms for the facility. And the concession stand is essentially almost a duplicate of what they had now because the program needs hadn't really changed. So you have a concession stand, some mechanical, electrical rooms, and some small toilet facilities. Imaging, this is as you sort of drive up. What I neglected to mention, because it's part of the project, but it's not done by Castle Booze, is the solar aspect. The project will have a full solar roof assembly that would be done by your consultant, Verigy. We've been working with them in terms of the infrastructure, so the infrastructure will be part of the project, just in terms of conduit, getting their cabling to where it needs to go. But as I showed those pictures, I just wanted to mention the solar carports. The solar carports are intended to be within the project. They're just sort of removed from this view to give a better understanding of the building. In addition to the solar carports really haven't been chosen, so it would just sort of be a placeholder. But this is a view coming up County Street. First thing you'll see is the Norwalk High School, the 4-story wing. Because of the height, it wanted to be broken down. We wanted to keep the material simple, just due to cost and functionality, really. So we just had the base generally be brick, and the upper portion, this gray material, is a profiled metal wall panel. So it gives it a little bit of corrugated look and sort of breaks down the scale slightly more. The long ribbon windows allow natural light to come into the building, and we sort of highlight some sections of the buildings with these taller curtain walls. In this case, this is the 2 project rooms that I had mentioned. And then you'll see the upper part of the media center sort of in the center here, where actually the main entry is for the administration. And off in the background, you'll see the P-TECH 3-story wing. This is a shot from straight on. So you have the administration. You'll see in the next shot a bigger canopy to protect from the elements and to give a better visual aspect for where the main entry is. Actually, if it just went back for a second, I was wondering where the crosswalk was. Oh, sorry, it's portion here. Of note, since this is a parking lot, you have a lot of migration of students coming through. We tried to funnel them all to here by just providing a short guardrail that's really between the 2 parking areas here. So this is generally a funnel directly into the main entry of the school. And a view from the P-TECH side. So you can see the canopy right below the portion of the media center. And then you can also see the treatment of the project room, the 2-story project room on the P-TECH side. Just swinging around the corner into the bus drop off on the west-hand side I had mentioned. So all the buses can go ahead and drop off the students on the right-hand side of the bus, and everybody would be able to be stacked around the building. The main entry for the bus would go directly into the commons that we had talked about. You can see on the right-hand side is a bit of a clearer story for the auxiliary gymnasium. The vision glass is actually an interlayer, so it's a laminate, and it diffuses the sunlight to be able to not have direct sunlight, but to be able to have that natural light within the gymnasium. This is a view from King Street. We removed the trees. There is a buffer. We're actually augmenting the buffer between King Street and actually Country Lane, where you have some more residential areas. So we're filling it in, at least in Country Lane, where we have a fence. We'll be providing a fence and additional vegetation to try to fill in a bit of what is, I guess, more of the bare spots. So on the south side here, on the left side, is the pool. Pool is treated a little bit differently with these higher spaces, because all the spaces on the south side are generally 2 or plus stories in height. The pool is generally 2 stories, so the treatment is starting to go vertical to try to give a different aspect and breakdown of those particular spaces. off on the right-hand side, you see the band room with a similar treatment, and then the larger clear story glass. Some of the interior shots, this is what you see when you're coming into the main entry. The administration for the Norwalk High School is on the left, and this is after you go through the secure vestibule and go ahead and report to the security office. You're able to be able to check in, and then you're led into the administration. You check into the administration, and then you're able to go through these doors on either side, and then you'll be able to go down to the corridor into the main commons area and into the main aspects of the school. Portion of the commons area where it is a cafeteria. The commons allows flexibility for learning, conferencing. It's intended to be a multi-use space. And as I had mentioned, you have a 2-story high volume that's directly open to below. You do have some seating areas here for, again, that flexibility for students to go ahead and break out into these areas and do some additional learning or just homework. And here's a view of the learning stair as it sort of goes up, and be able to access the P-Tech wing in front of you, and then off to the right-hand side, you'll be able to go to the P-Tech wing. And the view as you come up onto the common stairs and you look into down in the north side where the towards the parking lot, we do have the media center. There is a secondary opening. So as you had walked through the main entry, it's a 2-story high space after you get through to the administration. So you have that connectivity that happens in this corridor going down into the media center. I had mentioned the large group instruction, the career center for P-Tech, and then the career center for the high school is sort of off to the left, off camera, if you will. And on the left-hand side, as you kind of go into the double-story space, is the Digital Media Academy. And then just going into farther, you can just see where you start having a glimpse of what's happening into the media center. You have the traditional stacking, but you have the desk, you have seating, various seating areas for the students to sort of group to where they sort of matriculate to, and you have some conference rooms, traditional conference rooms off the side, and actually onto the right-hand side here, start seeing the large curtain wall in the background here. And this is a view from sort of the main seating area and the main volume for the media center. Start getting great views down onto the fields and onto the site itself on the north side. So that was a quick overview. If you had any questions.
Anyone have questions?
Very
No?
good.
Yeah, it looks beautiful. I know you spent a lot of time with the staff, and really taking their feedback. What I really like, as a teacher myself, former teacher, the collaborative workspace for the students for collaborative learning. Very bright, not prison-like, like the old Norwalk High School. And I think that, the students are going to really appreciate a learning space that is, it really feeds them as students. Mr. Burnett.
Yes, thank you.
Do you mind not taking the screen share down so we can see
Absolutely.
everyone? Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes, thank you. You might have covered it, but the field, especially the football field and track, are quite a distance from the building. So is there a locker room facility at the field, or is it still within the gym, within the main school?
You have two facilities. So you do have certainly a full locker facility with team rooms within the main building itself, but there was that field house off to the east side of the facility with a home and visitors team room. So talking with the athletic director, it gave him flexibility to do exactly what you had sort of mentioned. One is, for the football players, it's a little bit too far for halftime. It's probably twice the distance of what they have to do now, which is part of the reason for the field house.
Okay, good. Thank you. Thank you for that clarification.
You're welcome.
Mr. Meek?
Yeah, thanks. I'm curious, exactly what are we voting on here tonight? The meeting materials say 239 million. I think that's a number from 2019, inflation adjusted. That's probably another 80 or 90 million higher. What are we asking for?
I'm not sure I understand the question. My understanding is what we're voting on the project design to move the project design forward.
And what happens after that? Do we get a real estimate of the cost, or does the request go forward with the number in 2019 of 239 million?
I think, Joanne, are you able to comment on that, or?
I can jump in
Scott?
quickly.
Okay, thanks, Dan.
The budget of 239 million. So we completed the contract documents, which went to the local officials for review and approval, and we're planning to meet with the state in October for a final review before going out to bid. At this point, we've received an estimate back from Gilbane, the construction manager on the project. And with that estimate, which we've reconciled any discrepancies with the design team, we're backed into our soft costs. We're still within that $239 million budget that was originally approved by the state. And from there, we will, once we get the approval from the state on the next stage, we'll go out to bid, and that will generate a GMP with the construction manager, which would be the final construction costs for the construction.
So that 239 million, you had mentioned you went with cheaper materials in the design. Was that in an effort to like back into that number?
I don't recall mentioning cheaper materials.
Yeah, when you showed the front of the facade,
Okay.
With the main entrance, you said you went with more cost effective. I don't, cheaper, maybe not the
No.
right term.
Yeah, Scott mentioned that.
Yep, cost effective. There, when there was original budget in place in and around 2019, there was a particular price point that the construction manager had priced out. So those were the parameters that we started with. So those are the cost effective materials. So rather than, for example, curtain wall is a lot more expensive than storefront. So you would only want to use a certain amount of curtain wall versus trying to go to the more cost-effective curtain wall. Same thing with brick. If you use an insulated metal wall panel, you can be doubling the price of brick. When brick is a bit more cost-effective, well, it is more cost-effective and a little bit more durable over the life of the building. So I think that was the meaning of the cost-effective.
Okay, thanks. Next question. Do we have any, do you have any full renderings of the solar carport that is supposedly going forward with this request? You mentioned it, but you mentioned also that they were not included in this presentation. Is there any way we can have renderings of what that looks like, especially from the frontage of Strawberry Hill and County Streets, the neighbors that are going to have to look at those?
The understanding is that the city has entered a PPA agreements with a different consultant. We have worked with their consultant for, I had mentioned the infrastructure, but the actual carport has not been chosen by the city yet. So there hasn't been a final rendering for that. There has just been a study in terms of how much energy can be provided by the various solar arrays on the roof and the solar carports.
We have seen in this committee some renderings with, potentially what the solar carports will look like. And I believe those would have been presented to the Planning and Zoning Commission. So I think what Scott's saying is just, we just don't, the panels haven't been chosen. And I guess my sense, Scott, was that you just really wanted us to see the building.
Yes, because I can't really address much on the solar aspect except for the
Mhm.
coordination with the city's consultant, the city's vendor. let's say.
Okay, thanks. Back to the estimates with respect to earth excavation. Estimates have any cores been dug? Has any consideration been given to the fact that this property is primarily composed of ledge that will require blasting and significant excavation?
There had been significant amount of borings. We actually went back and took more borings. None of the borings showed ledge that were attainable. There is suspected ledge possibly underneath the existing building, which the construction manager is possibly anticipating and would be within their number. But in the 30 or so borings that we have done, there was no ledge that was hit. Some portions were just maybe shorter refusal based on smaller boulders.
Okay, thanks. You said you were working with the Norwalk Federation of Teachers in some capacity. I understand, and this is anecdotal, I may have this wrong, but I understand that there will be much fewer classrooms than teachers. Every teacher will be assigned to, will not have a homeroom or such, and will be assigned to teacher carts. Is that accurate?
The understanding is that the model for teaching is going to be slightly different than what it is now, where each teacher has a homeroom. The actual number of classrooms and learning facilities has not decreased. As I mentioned, it's really the same size as the existing facility. They've been reorganized to provide future flexibility. And the anticipation is the teachers would have to migrate from various rooms to room. And we have discussed that with the current administration and believe we addressed their needs, but there was not a diminishing of the number of classrooms. I think it was just a parity of understanding of how classrooms and learning rooms are counted. So there wasn't a reduction.
Thank
Can I
you.
just
And
Brian, I just want to add something on that particular topic. My understanding is that there is going to be like an office space for the teachers. Teachers are going to have a desk and a place to work, grade their papers, etc. Am I correct about that? And then from that space, they go to the classroom.
Correct. There's a teacher planning on each level.
Okay.
That was in that central core that I had mentioned, sort of
Okay.
centrally located on the back half of it, so they're accessible to the students if need be. But yes, it's a touchdown area for the teachers during their off periods.
Right. It's not like teachers are wandering around with no place to work. They have a
Correct.
place to work. I mean, I have seen that model in other high schools, Westport, for example. I'm pretty sure Darien has that model. So I have seen that. Anyway, sorry, I just wanted to interject that, Brian, so go ahead.
no, thank you. Thank you for expanding on that. And then my last question or questions in the same vein. Your firm, are you primarily engaged as public facility architects?
That's the majority of our work, correct?
Okay, so in that domain, would you also do like police, fire, courthouses, prisons?
No, mainly municipality facilities, strictly speaking, police and fire.
Okay, so
DPW facilities.
you know, we have an anecdotal thing going on here that, well, the school's like a prison, the existing one, but wouldn't it be true that generally speaking, architectural firms that design things like schools, firehouses, courthouses would also design prisons just because they're primarily engaged with government entities?
Prisons are completely different in terms of the secure aspects of it versus the police facilities.
Okay.
So our firm has never done a prison to my knowledge.
Okay, but we do know for a fact that the original architect of the original building also designed prisons along with schools, firehouses, courthouses. I know it gets thrown out there that the old building looks like a prison. I find that insulting being an alumni, and I'll miss it. But I'm tired of hearing that as an argument. Thanks. And that's more of a point than a question. I'm all done. Thanks, Barbara.
Okay. All right, any other questions? Comments? Okay, all right, so then let's move on to the action item 2B. Review project design and drawings for Norwalk High School and approve construction documents as required for state approval for public bidding. The Land Use and Building Management Committee is the city's school building committee per city ordinances and additionally approved by the Common Council for this project. The state requires committee approval and sign off, and Common Council approval is not required. Authorize the chairperson of Norwalk Land Use and Building Management Committee, acting in their capacity as the City of Norwalk's designated school building committee, to certify the Land Use and Building Management Committee's approval of the final plans, specifications, and cost estimates for the new Norwalk High School project, State Project 103-0263N. Do I have a motion? Okay, Mr. Burnett moves the items. Are there any questions about the action item or comments? Okay, seeing none, I will call for a vote. All in favor, please raise your hand. Opposed? Mr. Meek is opposed. The item passes 3-1. Thank you. Mr. Meek, I'm very fond of that building too. I am. My kids went there. I taught there. But I also appreciate the prison comments. But a school is, what you make of it. It's the people within it and the teachers that, make, teach our kids every day and make a family of it. So, but I really appreciate your comment there because it is a great building in that regard. Okay, so let's move on to the last item on the agenda, which is project presentation and update on the South Norwalk School.
Great, thank you. We have Eddie is here as well as Jeff to show us some photos and diagrams of the new Sono School. So feel free to ask them any questions as they go along.
Great, thank you, Joanne. Eddie Wadowski, Senior Project Manager from Tecton Architects in Hartford. With me is Jeff Wazinski, who's the principal in charge. I'm gonna try my best to be brief. I know it's late. Let's see. Okay, so I'm going to take you through first the site plans and then some building plans. North is up all of the diagrams I'm going to show you. So this is the former Hatch and Bailey site. South Main Street is here on the east side. There is a former rail spur property, so a bit of a hill that blocks somewhat the site from view on the east side. Meadow Street extension on the south, and then some more residential streets with Knapp and Oxford on the west side. Those of you familiar with the site will know that it's a very heavily graded site. There's a change in elevation of about 70 to 80 feet with the low point at the south side and working its way up. So we've really tried to site the building and the amenities to work with the existing topography. We have our main entrance off of Meadow Street. So the main parent drop off and pickup is here, looping around the parking lot. We have a secondary loop on Oxford Street for the younger students, and I'll show you that a little more as we get further in. But outdoor recreation and learning areas on the north side of the building, sheltered by the building, and then a winding path that works your way up to existing terrace that we're making use of for an outdoor play field. As I mentioned, you see the main drop off here around the parking lot. You see the second one here for visitor parking, and then also, this will be a little more evident as we get into the plans, but dedicated area for pre-K and K drop off, knowing that the younger students will need a little more time to get in and out of their car. So we wanted to have a separate area for them. You also see an emergency access in case there's ever a need to get into the site by another fashion. Essentially, it's reinforced turf, so most of the time it's just going to look like grass, but it is drivable. You see the main entrance here with the star, and our assembly spaces are here on the east side of the building, which I will show you a little further as we get in. So you see, zooming in a little further, the drop off here. We have our service entrance on the east side of the building. This is where the kitchen is and the cafeteria next to it. So this is the main entrance to the building, but an auxiliary entrance that can be used for the assembly spaces when there are after-school activities on evenings and weekends. You see the queuing area for the other drop-off. We are showing this is where buses would stack up, but we're really not expecting very many buses. This is, for the most part, a neighborhood school with all students living within walking distance of the school. And so really the buses are more for special needs, if there's special considerations for different families. Again, you see the play areas, and there are 3 play areas, or 3 sets of play equipment intended to be used, one for pre-K, one for K and first grade, and one for 2nd through 5th grade. We have an outdoor learning area, a tiered seating area that can be used as kind of a non-traditional classroom space to be able to take the students out when the weather is nice. So moving into the floor plan, again, you see the main entrance here. The main administrative area suite is immediately as you come in. Great visual observation and administration of the parking and site areas. We have the nurse flanking on the other side. So if you have a sick child, you can come in and get them quickly without having to go throughout the school. You see the classrooms for the pre-K, K, and first grade here. And again, this is the whole reason why we wanted that drop off, is to be able to, not only do they take a little more time to get in and out of the cars, but, you know, smaller, younger students, smaller legs, takes them a little longer to walk down distances. So we wanted to have them be able to enter the building really where their spaces are. This is the area, as I mentioned before, in terms of the after hours entrance. You can see we have doors set up at key strategic points to really be able to compartment off the building. So whether there's an event in the media center or the gym or the cafeteria, you've got the ability to close off different areas so that visitors don't have full access to the entire building. And that works well for security, just on an everyday basis, if there's ever a need for lockdown, to really be able to really compartment off things and provide an extra layer of safety. You see the media center here with a dedicated makerspace. Because this is such a large population, 682 students, bigger than most of the than really any of the other elementary schools in the district. We have a multi-purpose area, which is essentially an auxiliary gym. Will probably primarily be used by the younger grades for gross motor functions. You see the full-size gym here with a platform, essentially it's a stage. We don't call it that because of code reasons, but it is a stage for all intents and purposes. You can see we have a large operable partition between the gym and the cafeteria to really be able to expand that space depending on what the event is. If there's not enough seating capacity in the gym, it can spill out into the cafeteria, and you'll see that as we get into some of the interior views. You see band and music flanking the east side of the building and the art room. And then, you know, a few other associated support spaces, special education, breakout areas, to be able to have some non-traditional learning spaces, take kids outside the classroom, whether it's a full class or smaller groups or a few groups. And then a similar sort of approach, and you'll see this as we get into the main view, a social stair to really encourage interaction between teachers and students. So moving upstairs, primarily.
Can I ask a question before?
Please do. Yep.
Yeah, back to the first floor.
Sure.
What is the thinking behind having the music on one side and the band on the other? Isn't that at the elementary level, isn't that normally the same teacher who's teaching music and band?
Because of the size of the school, there actually will be 2 different teachers here.
Oh, okay, okay.
So, yeah, so really trying to have it to where, depending on what the function is, basically trying to have the music department closer to where the kids are so that you're not having to walk from one end of the building to the other.
Okay, and so then they would have to walk from across the cafeteria if they needed to get from music.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of coming across here, but for really, this is more of a kind of a circulation. The seating is going to be in this area, so you're not really walking through the seating area.
I see. Okay, thank you. Oh,
Yep.
Mr. Burnett has a question.
Oh, sure, by all means.
Yes, thank you. Could you repeat the platform room? You said, is that actually a room where they could do performances with a stage or not? What
Yes, it
exactly is that room?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's 2.5 feet high. It essentially it looks and feels like a stage. It's purely when you get into the building code. If you call it a stage, sometimes they start thinking there's a fly space and that you've got to, do smoke evacuation and a few other pieces. But yes, it's a platform in nomenclature only. It's a stage.
And how large is that room? Is that room large enough to, it doesn't appear to be large enough to bring the entire school together for any kind of formal program. It would have to be, it looks like it's fairly small compared to the multi-purpose room.
Well, that's the stage right here. You've got a full-size gym over here. And again, you've got the opportunity to open up the dividing wall between the gym and the cafeteria. So really you could fit, entire student population in this area.
Eddie, it might be, once you get to your photos, Greg,
Yes.
there is one showing, that space open. It might give you a little better idea.
Okay, thank you.
No
Yep.
problem.
Great point, Joanne. Thank you. Okay, so moving upstairs, the primary function up here is the classrooms for the older grades. You see 4 grades each. 4 classes each for 2nd through 5th grades. We also have a couple of flex classrooms to allow for bubble years and bumps in student population. You see some of the other special education spaces with gifted and talented, multi-language learners, things like that. Again, you see more of the breakout spaces in these corners, the opportunity for students to get outside the classroom and work on group projects. You see that here as well. The areas with X's are 2-story, or the upper portion of 2-story space. So this is the multi-purpose going on below, the media center, the gym, and then the cafeteria down below. We do have a second set of an auxiliary admin area up here on the 2nd floor to provide good security and observation of people as they're coming up this social stair. So show you a few images from the outside of the building. The concept, this is the main drop off kind of coming along here. So this is taken from the sidewalk just outside. You're looking at the main entrance here with the admin suite to the left of it and the nurse suite to the right. The concept was really to try and play off of the historic nature of downtown South Norwalk, to really kind of make a building that felt like sort of turn of the century and was respectful of the industrial buildings in the area. But at the same time, we wanted it to be a very warm and inviting space, fun, playful approach to it, to make sure that, it's an elementary school and it wants to feel that way. So the use of color, you see a lot of windows bringing natural light into the space and some sculptural forms. The yellow that you see on the underside of this canopy is really just kind of a little bit of a trick in the rendering. It actually would be a wood finish. So we really wanted to play off bringing natural materials into the design of the space. This is kind of swinging around to the other side. So looking back at the entrance from the other directions, you see the entrance for off-hours events going into the cafeteria. The piece that you see here and the one on the opposite side are 2 of our enclosed stairs. And we know that there's going to be a large volume of students coming up and down them on a regular basis. So again, we wanted to have large windows to really make them feel like it was nice and open, that they weren't walking through a very dark and enclosed space as they were traversing throughout the building. The green you see is metal paneling. And again, the major material, as you can see on this, is brick. A couple of different tones. We're working with, the more dedicated user group to refine some of the details and patterns and colors as we go forward. Swinging back around, a little bit more of a closer view of the main entrance. You can start to see some of the fun that we're doing with some of the details of the brick with soldier courses and step backs that are really playing off of what you would see on historic buildings. And this is swinging around to the west side, so you're seeing the drop off for pre-K and K and the bus circulation here. This side of the building is facing the more residential areas, so we wanted to kind of break up the building a little bit different here and make it a little less monolithic, make it look a little bit more respectful of the housing in the neighborhood. So a couple of quick views inside. This first view is taken after you've just walked in the main entrance and you're looking down at this social stair. We've got a color assigned to each of the 7 grade levels. Again, knowing that this is a big school, we really want a place where each student feels comfortable and has a place that's uniquely there. So there's an identifying color and graphics in each of the neighborhoods. And what we wanted to do is in the places where everybody comes together, we again want people to feel like there's a place for them here as well. So each of the colors from the grade levels is represented here. You see the ability to, walk straight up to the second floor, but also to really enjoy being able to hang out, talk with people, work with teachers and students working together on group projects. Some sort of textural approach here to making sure we're controlling acoustics, but display space here for either for student work or for historic, a place to learn about the history of Norwalk. You see on the left side here, the media center, and you'll see that a little bit better in the next image, but we can see what we've done here is we've popped up the volume of this main hall. So this is actually a 3-story space, and you see the high windows of a clear story to bring a lot of natural light and life into the building. From the second view I'm going to show you is taken inside the media center. And where you can see we're sort of looking back at the space that we were just in. And you can see the different colors and bringing together all of the accents from the various neighborhoods. On the left is the instructional area of the media center. You see the circulation desk, an operable partition here to be able to either have the makerspace be an auxiliary of the media center or to close it off. And then you can also see that social stair in the background. Again, lots of windows, lots of natural light being brought into the building, and a lot of visibility from space to space, so you can really see the excitement of what's happening in each area. And then the last view, as Joanne mentioned, this is taken inside of the gym, looking back out across the gym and towards the cafeteria. So the stage is essentially here on the right, and you can see quite a large area to be able to bring a good number of students together, or parents, or both. And then the operable partition here is shown in the open position, so you can see it really expands into what is the full seating area of the cafeteria. This you're seeing in the distance, the servery line, windows into the open to provide a sense of openness to the corridor of the second floor above. And then this is one of the breakout spaces, again, really trying to improve visibility and a lot of openness and borrowed natural light from space to space throughout the school. So let's see, last thing I'll tell you is schedule wise, you can see we're roughly about halfway through construction documents. In about a week and a half, we'll be furnishing our pricing set to the construction manager to confirm that we are on budget. We are looking at trying to get into the state for approvals, essentially in the first week of December, with the hope of being out to bid in January and getting a shovel into the ground when the ground thaws in spring or March or April. with the ultimate target of having the building occupied and complete in the fall of 2025. So that is what I have. I am happy to go back over anything you might have questions on. Hopefully it wasn't too long a presentation.
Thank you. It's good to see where you're at. Any questions or comments?
Impressive.
Agreed. Agreed, and very exciting. You know, a school that, you know, the kids, the community will be very proud of. I love the light. I love the light. You know what? I actually do have a question in that that open space where the, you know, with the gymnasium, the windows that we saw on this, you know, up above, were those interior windows or exterior?
Those are interior windows.
Okay, so though that light is not natural. Are there is there natural, like, so what I'm wondering about is when those doors are closed, you know, and there's, you know, use of just the gym and the cafeteria is separated when kids are eating, is there natural light coming in from another location?
Sure. So yeah, so these windows here that you're asking about, yeah, that is actually enclosed corridor. So that was it's kind of borrowed light, but it's artificial because you're seeing the classrooms beyond there.
I was actually asking about the ones, you know, on the other side there.
Yeah, the ones on the end here.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, same sort of thing. That's you can see when we go to the let's see. That might be the best way of, you know, the gym is really pretty much landlocked. So the gym is probably the one space that doesn't have natural light, but that's to some degree, it's a little bit by design. You know, when it comes to athletic competitions, sometimes that can be or, you know, activities that can be a little bit tricky sometimes when you get the glare coming in. We have had a lot of discussion about skylights. You know, we're kind of trying to balance a few things. We do have skylights planned for the cafeteria right now. We had them originally in the gym, and there's been some back and forth similar to the project before. We're also trying to maximize the real estate for roof-mounted solar panels.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
Yep.
All right, anything else? New schools. You know, it's been such a long time, and, you know, just, you know, opening Cranberry this year. I mean, it's a very exciting time for Norwalk Public Schools. You know, and with the 60% reimbursement that we're getting, the 80% on Norwalk High School, which is extraordinary. You know, it's and a plan. I know that Norwalk Public Schools is working on creating you know, a 25-year plan for new schools. So so it's good stuff, really good stuff, exciting. Okay, anything else for tonight? Okay, I'll take a motion to adjourn. Wait, everybody wants to stay? Okay, Mr. Freyer moves. All in favor, raise your hand. Thank you. Thanks very much. Good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you.